Joining me now is our resident GM, Dan O'Dowd, longtime general manager of the Colorado Rockies, longtime baseball man, and now we are lucky to have him on our air. And Dan, I wanted to ask you first of all, you don't need to make a trade or make a move just for the sake of making a move. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, Alana, our game's gotten a little crazy for me, and it does aggravate me at times. And even people who've been ex-GMs and have done the job, they talk about, okay, if you're not a good team, well, then you need to trade your players. But I look at it this way. If you look historically at the players that have been traded at the trading deadline, 90+% of the players really don't actually impact that next team that they go to. So if you have a player, one, that you like, two, you have a chance to keep control over moving forward, then unless you get something back that you really like, I just don't see this sudden urge to actually have to trade players. Now, again, Kansas City's case, they made a decision where they're not going to probably offer Benintendi, a qualifying offer that's still in place. So they needed to move the player, and they got back what they thought was the best value for him. I get all that. It's the players that fall into the other category. We just have this rush. Well, again, you're not a good team. So even though you control that player, you should be trading your players because you're not good players, when in reality is you got to like the players you're getting back, because how are you going to get better if you don't like the players you're getting back?
No question about it. There's another thing with this trade deadline looming so closely, Dan, that I'm very intrigued by, and I would love to get your opinion on the teams that are kind of in a holding pattern, perhaps on the cusp of holding or folding. I mean, we know the Yankees are making the postseason. We know the Rangers are not. But what about the teams in the middle?
Alana, those are the difficult place to be, and honestly, it's so much easier when you're on either end of the spectrum. Either you're a team that you know is going to play in October, and you're looking for pieces to actually go as deep in October as you possibly can and win a World Series, or you're not good. And you're in that cycle of trying to add talent, the best talent you possibly can. It's the one in the middle that really causes you sleepless nights. I look at the Red Sox as being in the middle, San Francisco Giants as being in the middle. Baltimore Orioles, for me, are a little bit different because I think their window of contention has opened up maybe a little sooner than they anticipated. But nonetheless, they have an opportunity to get into postseason. But the decisions that both the Red Sox make and the Giants make is not going to affect them this year. It's going to affect them for years to come. Now, the market will probably dictate which direction they should go in when they start to get a feel for what value their players have or how much it costs to acquire players to improve their chances this year. But those are the ones that those are the GMs that are going to earn their money in this year's trading deadline.
And I want you, Dan, to take me to a place that I'm not allowed to go. You spent a lot of time in the front office. You know exactly what's going down in the next 24 hours. Can you kind of describe what's going on in the minds of front office staffs right now, general managers in the next 24 hours in terms of that war room, if you will?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's not just you. Like in my case, I had a whole team of people, and I would assign clubs to different people in the organization that they had a really good relationship with. And I would hold on to the teams that I knew that I had a good, authentic, personal relationship with. And you're circling back now on all your discussions. You're constantly trying to get a feel if their positions have moved since your original discussion, because everybody starts out high in their asking prices, and then there's a more realistic approach when you get closer to the deadline. But you're constantly circling back, and you're trying to be as creative as you possibly can in trying to get the players back that you've identified you really want to acquire, and trying to figure out how you can meet the needs of another club. So to me, it's an exercise in processing thought very quickly, becoming very creative with your thoughts, and becoming a world-class problem solver. And a lot of times, it does come down to relationships that you have with people in the game, and people don't really understand. If you trust the person on the other side of the negotiation, you know that he's trying to create or she fair value for you in the process. It's much easier to get decisions done with those people than the ones that are on a fishing expedition trying to find out kind of where you're at with your players. Some of them even have, at times they take your own players and start to shop them to other teams, which that part of it would absolutely infuriate me. And there are some people in the game that actually do that. So it really gets down to being able to factor all of that in. And then you've got to work up. You've got to get your ownership group on the same page with you. I try to keep my field staff in the loop, but not so much in the loop that it becomes a distraction from the job that they're trying to do night in and night out.
Dan, you mentioned relationships. How much is trust a factor in this? Trusting the GM from the other team?
Well, I think it's become less because we've become such a sterile game, I think, in that regard, because we do so much via text rather than personal phone calls. But here's where trust comes in place that people don't factor. It's the trust of working with the person that you know has the courage to make a decision when you now narrow down to the point that a deal is close to being made. If you have dealt with the person in the past that you've gotten down the line with him and you know that there's always some additional ask or there's always some reason that they have to get back to you, those are the individuals, for me, I would stay clearly away from. If there were other opportunities for me to pursue a deal with someone that I knew had the courage to make a deal when you got to a point when a deal was ready to be made.
Let me ask you one quick question before I let you go, Dan. How much of this is like the NFL where you just take the best player on the board versus filling an actual need? Player versus need.
Depends on which side of the equation. So if you're the acquiring team, you're looking to fill a specific need. So you've prefed out the players from top to bottom that you're trying to get, and you're after that specific need. If you're the selling club, Alana, you're just taking the best possible player you can get, because more than likely they aren't going to be players that are at your major league level tomorrow, and so you're just trying to improve your talent base within your organization.
No question about it. Dan O'Dowd, always appreciate the education and the information. Thanks so much for being with me on High Heat today.
Thanks for having me on.